Hey everyone, this is Raven, and in this episode I'm going to be looking at the legendaries from the latest set, Dragon's Maze, and discussing their potential as commanders. Each legendary from this particular set is a champion of one of the 10 guilds of Ravnica. Let's begin with Orzhov. The Orzhov champion is Teysa, Envoy of Ghosts. Teysa is a 7 mana 4/4 creature that takes 1 black, 1 white, and 5 colorless to cast. Teysa has a lot of abilities, so let's break them down one by one. Teysa's first ability is Vigilance. Vigilance means that when you attack, you don't have to tap your creature, meaning that you can use your creature to attack and then still be able to block. Vigilance is usually not a very highly valued ability, but it can be deceptively good sometimes. This is especially true in multiplayer settings where you want to leave a blocker on the board so another player doesn't take advantage of your empty field. Teysa's second ability, however, makes this somewhat of a moot point, given that she can destroy any creature that deals combat damage to you, much like the card Dread does. This is a powerful Rattlesnake ability, which will ensure that no one will want to attack you even if all of your blockers are tapped. In the same vein, this ability's effect of creating a 1/1 flying creature when an enemy creature is destroyed by this ability is mostly useless. The destroy part of the ability already screams, "Don't attack me or else." And if somebody is still determined to attack you after that, well then the 1/1 flying spirit isn't going to make much of a difference at all. Teysa's third and final ability is Protection from Creatures. This means that Teysa cannot be damaged, blocked, or targeted by any cards that are creature typed. This essentially makes Teysa unblockable, as under most circumstances enemy blockers will be creatures. This ability also makes Teysa an omnipotent blocker, as she will take no damage from combat with other creatures. Combined with her ability to attack without tapping, these two abilities allow Teysa to be employed both offensively and defensively at the same time. Now that we've gone over her abilities, what's the verdict on Teysa, Envoy of Ghosts, as your commander? In my opinion, Teysa is casual. This means that Teysa will probably only be played for the fun of it, or for thematic purposes. This means that Teysa should not be considered by anyone looking for a strong commander in a competitive environment. While Teysa is by no means a horrible card, she has a problem with value. Basically, 7 mana is a lot of mana to be investing in any one spell. 7 should generally be the top or near top of your mana curve. This means that 7 mana cards should generally have some heavy oomph, and if allowed to stick around in the game should more or less allow you to win the game, or at least accumulate a lot of advantage. Teysa simply doesn't fulfill these requirements. She is a very passive, defensive card, and while she can swing at the opponent for an unblockable 4 commander damage a turn, it will take 5 turns, not including the turn Teysa comes out onto the field and is unable to attack, to kill an opponent through commander damage. There is plenty of room for your opponent to draw an answer. And Teysa is very vulnerable to removal. These flaws are only compounded by Teysa's high base mana cost, which will make her increasingly expensive and inefficient to recast from the commander zone. To me, Teysa was a big disappointment given how incredible her art is. The second card we'll be looking at today is Imara Tandris, who is the champion of the Selesnya Guild. Imara is a 7 mana 5/7 creature that costs 1 green, 1 white, and 5 colorless to cast. Her ability prevents your tokens from taking damage, whether it be from combat or from spells such as Lightning Bolt or Earthquake. To put it bluntly, Imara is a bad card. She is also incredibly bland. At 7 mana, she is overcosted for what she does. For one, her ability does not protect you from destroy effects, meaning field wipes such as Day of Judgment, Damnation, Wrath of God will still decimate your token army. She also doesn't improve your board position in any way, as she does not generate tokens on her own. And outside of this, she's just a vanilla 5/7, which is really not desirable under most circumstances. They couldn't even be bothered to slap another ability on her like Reach or Vigilance to make her slightly better. Due to her ability, she is pretty much only going to be used for a token deck, and yet there are so many better commanders out there if that's the kind of deck you want to build. In green-white alone, I can think of 3 commanders that would be better choices for a token deck. Trostani, Selesnya's Voice, is a hyper-efficient 4-mana creature who not only duplicates any creature token you have on the field, but also gains you life while she's at it. Reese the Redeemed is a commander at 1 mana that can create tokens as well as double the amount of tokens you have on the field. His low mana cost also ensures that he will be a recurring threat throughout the entire game. Heck, even Tolzamir Wolfblood is better than Imara. For a low cost of tapping, he can create a 4/4 legendary wolf token, and his mere presence on the battlefield increases the power and toughness of your green or white creatures by 1. If you're not limiting yourself to green-white, Mono Green offers even more amazing token commanders. 2 commanders that immediately come to mind are Kamal, Fist of the Krosa, and Azusa, Lost But Seeking. The final verdict on Imara? Trash. Token commanders? Look elsewhere. The next guild we will be looking at is Rakdos, and their champion is Excava, Rakdos Bloodwitch, which is a 4-mana 3/3 creature that costs 1 black, 1 red, and 2 colorless to cast. Excava is without doubt a stellar aggro commander, and all of her abilities complement her role. Her first strike ability allows her to attack before the enemy creature rather than at the same time, and receive no retaliation damage if the enemy creature dies in her attack. Since her 3/3 body is also very efficient for her mana cost, she will be able to use her first strike ability to destroy most conventional blockers that opponents may have at this stage of the game. This aggressive potential with first strike is further amplified by the Rakdos mechanic of Unleash, which allows her to gain 1 power and 1 toughness at the cost of not being able to block, which doesn't really matter much as she will likely be the aggressor. Her haste ability ensures that she will come out swinging, and her final ability, which gives other creatures with +1/+1 counters haste, is really just gravy. While strong, Excava faces a problem which all aggro commanders inevitably run into. Aggro decks function off of the philosophy that you must destroy your opponent before they stabilize and or before you run out of steam. This kind of playstyle is inherently weaker in a multiplayer format where, simply put, there's more players to kill. Being the sole aggressor at a table of 4 people can also draw the aggro player some unwanted attention. Traditionally in multiplayer Commander, decks that tend to sit back and build up their resources, such as control or combo decks, dominate. That said, Excava is still a strong choice in the 1 vs 1 Commander scene. Lavinia of the 10th is the Azorius champion, who is a 5-mana 4/4 creature that costs 1 white, 1 blue, and 3 colorless to cast. Lavinia is a bit of a weird card to be playing as a commander, as she seems to be designed for the standard format, but that doesn't mean that she doesn't have any potential. Protection from red is not a super relevant ability in Commander. Off the top of my head, there's nothing you really are particularly worried about in the red color, but it's still a nice ability to have. What you're really using Lavinia for is her second ability. Lavinia's second ability taps down all non-land permanents of 4 converted mana cost or below when she enters the battlefield, and they don't untap until your next turn, which gives you a tempo advantage over your opponent. Unfortunately, tempo in EDH is not really a thing either, unless it's a 1 vs 1. Therefore, you need something else to make Lavinia tick. Given that Lavinia's effect is an enter the battlefield effect, and that she is in blue and white, the colors of bounce, it seems logical to build a blink deck, which relies on repeatedly triggering enter the battlefield effects. Tapping down all of your opponent's stuff for one turn may not be that impressive, but if you're doing it turn after turn after turn, then you're going to accrue some significant advantage. Just be wary of the fact that Lavinia's ability targets all opponents, meaning that you probably won't be too popular with your group if you repeatedly bounce her. Overall, Lavinia is probably not the best choice for a commander, but she is viable if you want to give a blink type deck a shot. And finally, Melek, Izzet Paragon, is the Izzet champion, and he is insane. Not only is he the embodiment of everything Izzet, he is also the embodiment of everything Commander. His abilities are huge, over-the-top, flashy, game-changing. He's a miniature future sight on a stick that also copies the spells he casts off the top of your library. In a well-built deck, if he sticks even for one turn, your opponents are gonna be in a boatload of trouble. Melek is probably best placed in a sorcery and instant heavy deck, given that his ability relies partially on luck. You want to make sure to maximize your chances of having a sorcery or instant on the top of your library. In addition, draw, shuffle, and sift effects are highly synergistic with his playstyle. This further increases your odds of having a sorcery or instant spell that you want on the top of your library, given that you are able to rearrange it. With some proper setup, Melek can do some incredibly broken things, such as copy Time Warp off the top of your deck, and using the 2 consecutive turns you're taking to search for even more broken cards to copy and cast from the top. Melek can also be played as part of an engine for a wheeling, spell-slinging Storm deck. His ability puts many more cards at your disposal, given that the top of your library then essentially becomes part of your hand. If your deck is filled with cheap sorceries and instants, chain casting these spells to trigger a high count storm is not a difficult task. Given that your deck probably also would include a ton of draw spells, including a couple of combos would not be out of place, given how fast you are sifting through your deck. Just keep in mind that if you're playing Melek, very few people are going to allow you to keep your commander on the field. The moment you cast him, you are public enemy number 1.